this is to take a particularly long period of time. Um, I have a Facebook page under my actual given name, but I'm developing material for the Weekend Bohemian, where it's going to have a home of video clips kind of all in one spot, talking about different things that I'd like to talk about on Facebook, but I kind of want to put videos and give them a home in one spot. I just want to speak briefly and have a geek moment. I came across an article on Facebook that discussed Netflix canceling the batch of um, programming, original programming that they had under the Marvel name that utilized Marvel characters, including Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, and Daredevil. I really enjoyed all of those series, some more than others. We will leave Iron Fist for discussion for a different day. Now, I will say now I'm not a super deep geek when it comes to these things, but I am an avid fan and like a good storyline when I see one. The article that I'm speaking of has to do with material as opposed to utilizing Marvel products. One of the things that came up that probably made quite a few people, including myself, unhappy was the announcement that each of the four Marvel products that were airing on Netflix got canceled, so they're not getting renewed for another season on Netflix. When I first started hearing about one story after another about how each of these Marvel products were getting canceled and weren't getting renewed on Netflix, I thought, well, what I understand is that Disney is developing their own channel and perhaps they were pulling these products for themselves and working things out with Netflix so that ultimately Marvel or Disney rather could have all of their products on their own channel and then they would continue on running these products or these Marvel products, including Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil, and Iron Fist on the Disney channel. Apparently, maybe it was a mutual parting of the ways. The most recent article that I read was how Netflix decided that they canceled these particular series and that they are looking to develop their own material, which is terrific. Um, and among the things that they're doing is Umbrella Academy. And I got a chance to watch the first season. I did binge it, and the premise was terrific. And I don't want to get into spoilers because I think people should be able to watch something for themselves and make their own decisions. So I'm just going to touch lightly on the series itself. Overall, I think that it was actually really good. The premise is terrific. The only criticism, if there is such a thing, is my ability to throw my 2 cents on the subject. Is that the premise is terrific. I, for one, really do like a time travel premise in a story that always gets my brain burning, and I really enjoy that as a part of a storyline. It's always very intriguing, and I think it keeps things moving, and it has lots of potential to take a storyline in lots of different areas, and it's very entertaining. In this instance, it's still really good. It's a terrific premise. It did remind me, it had sort of an X-Men vibe to it in terms of an ensemble cast, and each individual has special powers that they all develop from birth, and they get raised as siblings with a Professor X style person who takes all of them under his wing. Now, this has a lot more layers to it as opposed to the X-Men stories that we tend to see, particularly in movies, in that this clearly has a much darker tone to it, looking at the downside of raising children to adulthood who have special abilities, and how do you cope with that, how do you deal with them. So there are lots of layers. Again, I'm not looking to give spoilers, but if I had to make a little bit of a complaint, I really enjoyed watching it. But what I discovered is that there were times that I could watch the story. I liked the action. I liked it when there were things going on in the storyline that really advanced the story and advance the plot. But there were some times when, if they were just sitting around talking, I found that I could actually just walk out of the room, run a quick errand, or walk out the room, brush my teeth, or come back in, stick my head in the door and see if there's any action, or see if anything is developed. And I think that when they get into dialogue, for some reason, it's almost as if the actors or the scene is getting drawn out in order to just fill in time, because sometimes there was dialogue, or there were moments where it got really quiet and really just kind of downright boring, and things that, in terms of dialogue, that would advance the story, they could have gotten to the point a lot sooner. And maybe that's just me being impatient, but I just found that was a common theme, and there was definitely moments throughout each episode where when they got to dialogue and it got quiet, it got really slow, and I discovered I could walk out of the room, go do something else, come back in, and I really didn't miss anything. And I think if you really want to keep an audience, and for somebody like me who wants to be able to follow a storyline and really be able to keep up the pace, that would be one of my concerns going into this. So, and clearly they left it on with a cliffhanger that was actually really good, and toward the end it got really good, particularly, especially as they really started to dig into the time travel element of the story, and then it just got progressively better, and the characters really came into their own throughout the first season, particularly toward the end. If I had to again get a little picky, there are two characters I think who had a lot more going on, who were a lot more interesting. One of whom was the character, I think his name is Klaus, who can see dead people and communicate with the dead. And also, he has, as far as a character, there's a lot going on with him, and the storyline does explore a lot of his character and why he is the way that he is as a person, given the type of talent that he has. The other person who I found extremely interesting is the character named Five. And he's the person who ends up time traveling, and when he shows up, he really pushes the storyline along. And those were the two characters I found the most interesting. There's another character, clearly there's definitely room to get into his character. His name is Pogo, and I'll leave it at that. He's sort of an uncle, not oversee, he's sort of an uncle, warm-hearted individual who kind of brings humanity to the experience of each of the characters, ironically enough. And you'll see, so if you want to watch the show, you'll see what I'm talking. Hopefully you'll pick up on what I'm talking about. The other character, the two characters who aren't really floating my boat, and I think tended to be the area times whenever they were on screen or sharing time together, tended to be the two characters, Allison and also Luthor. They were a bit of a snooze fest to me. That tended to be the times when the dialogue or the story just got really slow and really quiet, and I didn't find it particularly compelling or very interesting. Not that it was a distraction, it's just that I was ready to get back to the heart of the story. Two other characters who are a little more peripheral, but they're like co-stars in the show, is the character played by Mary J. Blige, and that was actually really interesting to see her in an acting role. I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed her. It was a lot of fun watching her. And then there's the person who is her partner in the film. The two of them were actually very interesting in terms of their story, and just the fact that it is the way they're portrayed as, and it's their job to be doing this, and their approach to their characters and their approach to what motivates them and what they're doing throughout the storyline was actually very interesting, because it is a job. So the perspective from each of the characters really brings something fun and original to the story. Your bad guys aren't necessarily your garden variety bad guys, and I think it also marks a turn in a lot of stories that we're seeing these days, whether it's film or on on the big screen or on the small screen, where the person you would normally label as the villain actually has a backstory, and they actually often tend to have an actual motivation. They aren't just your resident bad guy or bad person showing up and just doing bad things to the characters. There tends to be a lot of motivation, and a lot of times their end game or what it is that they're actually going after simply motivates them to take actions that definitely do affect people. And yes, that makes them come across as the villain or the bad guy. So that's my 2 cents. Again, I'm trying really hard not to get into spoilers. I would really like for people to be able to see it and enjoy the show for themselves if it's something that you think you might want to look into. But that's my 2 cents. Also, this is another test to develop material for a YouTube channel. This time I'm going live, and hopefully we'll get a chance. We'll see how this works after I end the recording. And this is a work in progress. So thanks very much. If you get a chance to view this, and if you think it's interesting, or if you have ideas on other subjects that we can talk about, I'm just enough of a geek to be dangerous, but I'm not as in-depth as a lot of these other geek channels and people who talk about geeky stuff. But I love it. I love it as a genre. It's a constant source of entertainment for me, and I have a lot of affection and a lot of love for it. So hopefully this will resonate with you, and if you're interested in checking out something like Umbrella Academy, check it out, absolutely, and see what you think. Throw your 2 cents in. Am I being too picky? Am I doing too much of a comparison to Marvel products or not? Who knows? What are your thoughts on it? So thanks so much. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.